Pivot and the Wolf, Chapter 6. The owner of the jewelry store was pretty, and Hiroi noticed his dad looking at her as well. Hiro ended up buying a necklace for Chiharu sometime before here, and he had to admit that this shop had great stuff. The owner was showing them a pair of earrings. These earrings are made of amber, and do you see those shiny specks inside? She asked. It's a way of knowing that it's all natural. You can tell natural amber because it's warm to the touch. And she invited them to touch the earrings. The amber was warm. Goro smiled. These are perfect, right, Hiroi? Hiroi nodded. This is my favorite shop, he said. Well, thank you, the owner said with a warm smile. And Hiroi noticed his father was quite charmed as well. On the drive home, his dad said, You know I love your mom, Hiroi, but she's not a warm woman, and she's away a lot. Dad, if you want a divorce, just go ahead. I'm old enough that I can handle it. Hiroi, I never said divorce. I love your mother, and we both love you. Family means we stick together. Sure, Dad. Hey, be nice to her on her birthday, okay? Of course, Dad. Later, Hiroi Akane and Goro Matsui celebrated Akane's birthday at a Japanese steakhouse. They all wore their nicest clothes, which meant that the men looked underdressed. Happy birthday, Akane, Goro sang. Happy birthday, Mama, Hiroi sang, and then they applauded her. Akane smiled and said, I am a lucky woman. I'm proud of our Hiroi, a black belt in judo, and doing well in his studies. And I'm proud of my husband Goro, who teaches competitive, first class swimmers, and he helps parents and children bond through the love of swimming. And before dessert arrived, Goro gave her the jewelry box. We picked these out together. It's not much, but it's a way to show how much we care about you. Her eyes lit up when she looked at the teardrop-shaped earrings. These are lovely. Thank you. It was more emotion than Hiroi had seen her show the entire 12 months prior. Well, Papa's getting lucky tonight. I think I might go on patrol, Hiroi thought. After dinner, Hiroi packed his uniform and made an excuse to leave home. His parents didn't seem to notice. And so he jogged to a nearby park and changed in one of the bathrooms. After masking up, Pivot went out and stashed Hiroi's satchel at an abandoned candy store that he had been using as his hideout. He locked up and joined the night. Mother Night took him into her cold embrace. A passing guy gave him the victory sign. Hey, Pivot, way to go, man. It felt good. And he looked up and saw Frogman jumping from rooftop to rooftop, and Tengu women flying overhead. Must be nice. And then Miss Manta glided down into his path. Pivot, she said. I saw that video. You need counseling. Luckily for you, I'm a counselor. Pivot scoffed. Okay, sure, let's talk. Miss Manta led him to a car, and there he stopped. I have one of your business cards. We can meet in your office during the day, I've decided, Pivot said. Hey, I'm a do-gooder. I will not mess with you. We'll just talk. So he got into her car, and they drove to an office building. I'm a licensed therapist, she explained, and she led him into a room with a comfy couch. Would you like to lie down? She asked. Sure, he said, and then he stretched out. Miss Manta took off her mask and her cape and sat down on a chair behind the head of the couch. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about first? She asked. And without knowing why, he spilled his guts about Emmy. He ended with crying over his goldfish dying. It was really Emmy's fish, but she gave it to me, he said. Shin's is still alive, and it feels like since he forgave her, the fish that he named after her. What about the fish, Pivot? The fish won't die because he forgave her, and I can't bring myself to do it. Why can't you forgive Emmy? She's the good one. The good what? She's the woman I'm supposed to be able to trust. She's the first woman to love me. What about your mother? She must love you. Love is a word that she says, but she has no idea what it means, like some obscure color she's never seen before. But Emmy did betray you. Yeah, and so did Chiharu. And Yoshimi. Well, Yoshimi didn't betray me, she just dumped me because I wouldn't stop being a mask. And Setsuko, and Harumi, and Sayuri. Well, Sayuri's just creepy. And he started to trail off. And then there are all the flings, she added. Spurt and good night. It seems to me that your hostility to your mother impairs all of your relationships with women. Maybe you're right, Miss Manta, Pivot agreed. You need a safe relationship with an older woman to heal those hurts. And then you can have healthy relationships with girls your own age and adults too. What do you suggest? Befriend a librarian? He asked. Instead of replying, Miss Mantis straddled the couch and gave him a kiss. I can save you, she said. Pivot wanted to be saved. Afterward, he was crying in her arms while she stroked his head. It's all right, Hiroi. You're going to get better. You're already getting better. It's going to be fine. Let it all out. You can trust me. They lay there naked, wrapped up in her cape, and she comforted him. He hadn't realized how much he'd been hurting, how deep it went. And then, after the sexual release, the dam broke, and he felt so much better. You're a good boy, Hiroi. You're not bad or dirty. You're good. A good boy, she said. She said it over and over again, and he started to sob anew. That's okay. This is part of getting better, she soothed. And he found out she believed her. He began to suck his thumb. No, no, not your thumb, she said, gently pulling his hand away. This is better. And she pressed a nipple against his lips. That's right, Hiroi. Good boy, she said, holding his head. And it didn't occur to him until later that the whole thing was very wrong. At the time, he trusted her. And, boobs are good, right? And it felt good to be held and to be touched and to be told that you were good. By the end, he felt great. Miss Manta was going to save him, and that felt good too. As Pivot rode the bus home, filled with this contentment, at home he slept better than a baby. And Sazae stayed the night at Shinichi's apartment. She smiled in her sleep, and Shin wondered what she could be dreaming about. He crept to his workbench so as not to disturb her, and continued working on Hanako's program files. He added an encyclopedia to her access files, and then he added a command to gather input from the internet within very strict parameters. He took a deep breath and saved his progress. Shinichi prayed to the goddess of mercy that he wasn't making a mistake with his AI. I acknowledge my new programming, Shinichi, Hanako said. Run hologram Hanako 1, Shin said. The projectors lit up, and a purple-haired anime girl appeared. She was wearing a sundress. The hologram waved hello. Hi, Shin. I hope you like how I look, the hologram said. You're beautiful, Hanako, he said. I hope Sazae doesn't get jealous, Hanako said and then giggled. End hologram, Shin said. The hologram turned off. You should get some rest, Shin. I'll handle things, Hanako said, and Shin nodded. He climbed back into bed with Sazae. She mumbled his name, and with one arm reached out to hold him. He was able to fall asleep. In the morning, Sazae kissed him awake. I'm so happy to wake up next to you, Shin, she said. And that word was another nail in the coffin for him. He knew that their relationship's days were numbered. He knew the relationship was days from ending. He just knew it. He smiled anyway and put on his glasses. No, no, don't look at me while I'm all sleep disheveled. I'm not fit to be seen, she teased, and she jogged into the bathroom in her nightshirt. He watched her in the dawn light. He smiled and thought that she looked nice no matter what she said. Shin lay back down and stretched with a smile that he didn't have to fake. He was prepared to enjoy the remaining time. Take the ride, enjoy the ride. Hanako, play the Rite of Spring, he said, and then nothing happened. Crap, he needed to put a speaker in his room. He went to the bathroom. Would you like me to join you this time? He asked. Sure, she said. He climbed into the shower with her and scrubbed her back. Now, you should invent some sort of shower that has a separate water system for the shower than the rest of the water so that the plumbing never gets messed up with the hot water. That would sell, she said. Those already exist. They're just expensive, so most of us just deal with it. What I'm going to do is make a sonic shower and give it warm, pleasant vibrations and get you just as clean, like in a science fiction movie. Ooh, I like that idea. Hey, imagine making love while getting vibrated all over. Do you mean like this? He asked, and blew a raspberry on her chest. Sazae shrieked with laughter. Save some of that excitement for later. We're going to the pool tonight, Shin said. Sazae kissed him. Are you going to let me do everything I want? She asked. Everything. And what about Hiro? He can do whatever he wants. Even if he wants me? All right, let me nip that in the bud. Hiroi won't do you. You're beautiful, you're sexy, but he just will not fuck anybody but Harumi. Oh, I bet I can change her mind and his too. It's not just her, Shin said. But then he stopped from telling her everything. That whole yoni magic thing sounded too outlandish for a mundane to accept. It was easier for masks because, well, they dealt with the unnatural on a daily basis. So Sazae said, okay, I'm going to try anyway. Whatever you want, babe. You promise not to get mad? I promise not to get mad. After they drove off, he said, I'll come back later then, and I hope you'll have a nice sexy bikini. Sazae smiled and said that she did, and she left to catch the bus home. Okay, so I guess I'll pick you up later, or we'll meet at my apartment later. Whatever you say, he said to the door after she had left. And then he looked over at the speaker for Hanako and said, "Pool is a go." And he texted Hiroi the good news. Hiroi replied, "Oh, good, you're awake. I saw Miss Manta last night in her office. She's a great therapist. I feel amazing." Hiroi texted back, "Oh, that's great, bro." And Shin had a thought. A masked therapist was a gimmick, but he was happy to be proven wrong. He was glad she was the real deal and not just a gimmick. And it was at that time that Harumi texted Shin. She said, "So your girlfriend, she's a total pervert, huh?" "Yeah, the silly thing is going to try to fuck Hero. I warned her," Shin replied. "Let her try. I get off on it," Harumi replied. And he knew that she did, the evil witch. Hiroi took his supplements, and he would make Harumi light the next time they had sex. He knew that she loved it. Emmy had loved it too. While looking around his bedroom, Hiroi looked once again at her ceiling, and he thought he could still see the place where Emmy's face had smacked into the ceiling. He learned to always hold on tight after that. Then he squinted. No, no, the blood was definitely all cleaned up. But then he saw something else. A poster-sized photo of Foxfire and Pivot. And how had she put that on his ceiling without him noticing? And what was it with women sneaking into his bedroom? When Wolfgal did it, it was cute. When Tengu Woman did it, it was creepy. Now Foxfire was doing it too? Sheesh. He picked out his blue Speedo for the night's festivities and packed it into his satchel with everything else. Harumi could be sweet, and the poster really was a nice touch. He found out that his mother had made waffles for breakfast, and they were good. "Holy cow, Mom, did you find a magic waffle maker?" he asked. "Almost, Hiro-chan. I'm glad you like them. No fires or anything," Goro teased. "Now don't you get used to this homemaker stuff, boys," Akane insisted. "Hey, don't call me Hiro-chan. I'm a man now," Hiroi said, and he resumed eating. "Okay, Hiroi, you're a grown-up," Akane said softly. Breakfast was delicious. Thank you," Hiroi said at the end, and he went to the bookstore to find some new comics. As usual, he nabbed some of the more standard manga to camouflage his erotic comics that he also purchased. Harumi's spell did not stop him from taking care of himself. It was the one thing that allowed him to feel free under her curse. She could not control that. He got a text message from Sazae. It was a photo of herself wearing a revealing red bikini and smiling. "Looking good," he replied. "Thanks, Hiro-chan. I'm looking forward to tonight," she texted. Sazae could get away with calling him Hiro-chan. She was cute. Wait, was she flirting with him again? Oh, that couldn't end well. Still, Sazae was cute, and he'd never turn down a fair offer. It was ungentlemanly to do otherwise. He carried his books home, and he shoved them underneath his textbooks. And then he changed his mind and moved them out into the open. And then he looked at the picture again. Sazae was cute, and she had a good body. If only he could fully enjoy being with other women. He read the erotic comics first, and then it was time for his shift at the pool. And this day, he smiled when the mamas flirted with him. He decided to let them have their fun. It didn't hurt him anymore. He'd felt true pain, and that feeling that some mamas were having fun with him didn't even register on that scale anymore. Shin found that he couldn't concentrate on his work projects, not even the centipede crawler drone. So he tried to play video games, anything he could to kill the time. And Shin bought a big bag of Happy Burger for the pool. Hiroi stayed after to clean and close up as always, and his dad thanked him for his hard work. Harumi took her car to pick up Shin and Sazae at his place. When they arrived at the pool, Shin texted Hiro that they were there, and they parked in the back. Hiroi let them in wearing his Speedo and his jogging jacket. Shin held up the bag of Happy Burger. Oh, thank you, I'm starved, Hiroi cheered. They followed Hiroi into his dad's office and ate in there. Now, how long should we wait before we swim? Sazai asked. All you really need is about 15 minutes. The temperature of the water is what makes a big difference, and our pool is temperature controlled, Hiroi explained. Oh, nice, Harumi said. They ate, and Hiroi patted his belly appreciatively. Harumi sat on his lap and gave him a big kiss. I know a secret, she said. Can you tell it? Hiroi asked with a smile. It's the kind I can share, she said, and then she looked back at Shin and Sazai. Shin, if I said it was okay, would it be okay with you? She asked. I already gave my permission, Shin said. Well, then I can tell. Sazae-chan wants to climb Mount Matsui and slide all the way down again. Sazae's face reddened and she looked away. Doesn't that excite you, Hiro-chan? I want to watch you with her. This is a game, isn't it? She doesn't know, Hiroi said. Well, I do like you, Hiro-chan. Do you like me? A little? Yes, Sazae. The problem is not with you, Hiroi replied, and he glared at Harumi. Let's put on our swimsuits, Sazae. The boys can't wait, I'm sure, Harumi said, and dismounted Hiroi to take her bag into the women's locker room. It's okay if you peep, boys, Sazae said shyly and followed after Harumi. The games that witch plays hurt my soul, Shin said. It's not like telling her would do anything. She'd never believe us, Hiroi said. The sad thing is, I do like her. She's nice. What about you? He asked Shin. Oh, I tried to warn her. She can do whatever she wants. I told her that too. Honestly, I kinda want to watch. She's not Emmy, but I feel that same sense of happiness and sharing. Does that make me dirty? Bro, I'm so fucked up I can't even tell anymore, Hiroi replied. Well, if everyone agrees, no one gets hurt, everyone smiles at the end, no wrong done, Shin offered. Agreed. They shook on it. Shin went to the men's locker room to change into his Speedo. Hiroi stretched, and maybe with Harumi nearby, the spell would allow it. He didn't think it would work, though. That yoni magic seemed to be very specific. Harumi came out first. Her suit was definitely meant to be worn near the pool, but not actual swimming. It was a gingham print in pink and lavender. She was barefoot and walked slowly to meet him. Hiro-chan, I want you to try for her. Make it good. Haru-chan, will you allow me to do it? Oh no, Hiroi. The only way to do that would be to break the spell completely, and I won't do that. What won't you do, Haru-chan? Sazae asked. Don't worry, it's not important. Give her a kiss, Hiroi. Harumi pushed him toward the other woman, smiling. Shin exited just in time to see Hiroi kiss Sazae, and his heart jumped. Wasn't he supposed to feel jealous? Instead, he and Harumi got comfortable. watching Sazai and Hiroi. Without saying a word and without looking, Harumi reached over to grab hold of him. Sazai sighed happily. It's okay, Hiro-chan. I took my pills and you're wearing a condom. Don't hold it back. And she rocked her hips, urging him on. But still, there was no satisfaction. Okay, Hiro, lay down and let me, she said. She shook and she called out in joy, and she looked at his face expectantly. Don't you like it? Did you take a pill of some kind too? Sazae asked. Hiroi sat up and gave her a gentle, tender hug. She smiled and continued to move her hips and gave him a kiss. It still didn't work. What's wrong? Is it me? She asked. No, Sazae. You're cute and you're nice and I really like you. But I can't come for any woman but Harumi. She casted a spell on me. Sazae pulled back. You're serious? And Shin grunted as Harumi's hand finished its work. She looked over at them. Shin liked watching you, Sazae, Harumi said with a grin. And I did cast a spell on Hiroi, but not Shinichi. He's yours and perfectly safe. Sazae pulled free slowly. It's true? You won't let him? Sazae asked, not bothering to fix her suit back into position to cover up her body. It's true, Harumi said. Come on over here, Hiro-chan. It's time to show her. Hiroi stood up and walked over to the bench. Watch closely now, Harumi said and stripped. Hiroi sat down and Harumi mounted him. Oh, he's so big. You did that, Sazae-chan. You should be proud. I do feel a little sore, Sazae admitted. It's probably the friction from the condom as much as anything else, darling, Shin said. I read that they aren't meant to be worn for marathons like that. Harumi put on a big show, panting and screaming as she bounced. Finally, squeezing Hiroi tight and rocking slowly as if coaxing as much as possible from him. Then, sighing in satisfaction, she pulled away and tugged off the condom to show the evidence. Sazae walked away crying, and Shin watched her go. What could he do or say? Harumi carried the condom into the locker room and threw it into the garbage. Don't cry, Sazae. It's not your fault. Hiro-chan belongs to me is all. You're so mean. If I could, I would break your spell, Sazae shouted. Harumi fixed Sazae's suit for her. But you can't. You don't know how. Be happy with Shin. He's a good boyfriend. I can't be with him anymore. I will always be reminded of you and Hiro and you taunting me with that condom. Sazae shouted and started to cry anew and pulled on her street clothes. Harumi smiled. So sorry to see you go. I like you, Harumi said. Sazae carried her things out the door, and she gave Shin a kiss goodbye. I'm sorry, Shin. I just can't stay with you and them. And Sazae ran to leave the pool. Tears started to flow from Shin's eyes. No, it was just pool water that had gotten on his face. He wasn't crying, not over some Enjo Kosai girl. Harumi dried his face with her towel. Sorry I ruined everything, Shin-chan. Fuck you. Fuck Foxfire. Never talk to me again, Shin said, and he went into the men's locker room. Hiro, I'm leaving you, Harumi announced. Good. Release the spell. No. She walked away to the locker room and he followed her. Damn it, release me! Beg, she ordered. Hiroi knelt. Please, Lady Harumi, goddess who owns my dick, please release me. Putting her hands on her hips, Harumi laughed and laughed. Now lick my foot, she commanded. He did, with his eyes down. No, I decided I want my dick puppet a little longer, she said. I'll let you know when I want you again. Go out into the night, have all the sex you want, but you'll never have any babies that aren't mine. You said you couldn't release just a part of the spell. Did I? I lied. She kicked him onto his back and pinched his scrotum cruelly. You may come, but only I can have your babies, she said. Thank you for a lovely evening. And then she dressed, while Hiroi held his aching balls. The spell continued to hurt him as Harumi stepped over him and laughed again. I don't know when the hurting will stop. Sorry for that. Damn you to hell, Ota Harumi! Hiroi hissed through his pain. I'll see you there, Matsui Hiroi. Shin ran to find him still curled up in agony. Hiro, what did that witch do? Shin asked, pulling his best friend to his feet. She released part of the spell. The spell and the magic is killing me. Hiroi gasped and nearly vomited from pain. Shin held him until the agony finally ended. Hiroi gulped breaths. I'm so sorry, Shin. I don't know what to do, Hiroi said. She would have thought we were making fun of her if we tried to explain ahead of time. She's just an Enjo Kosai girl. Bullshit. She was getting serious. All the more reason I'm glad it's over, Hiroi. And I am. Later, Emmy was looking at Pivot's Twitter again. She couldn't stop herself. She read a tweet that said, I have cut all ties to Foxfire. I am not looking for a replacement. She read it with her own eyes. Foxfire was Harumi, but he said he wasn't looking to replace her. Emmy knew that that meant it was not a time to go home. She let out a heavy sigh and called a cab to voluntarily commit herself to a hospital. And then she canceled the call immediately. No, the answer was to become a true human being, not to go back to a clinic and hide from the world. She then busied herself cutting the fabric for a Spider Queen costume. It would end up being rather motley because of the fabric she had available, but it busied her hands until her mind and her emotions were centered again. Take it one day at a time, she assured herself. Graduate high school, go to art school, go somewhere on the mainland, maybe Odaiba or Osaka. And before the year was out, Emmy requested to test out of high school without finishing and attending a senior year. As an orphan with intentions of higher education, her request was granted, and she passed that test. She left Sado Island like she was being chased. In a way, she was. She was accepted to an art school in Osaka, and there she had a tendency to make art using different media portraying a wolf, otter, and a hedgehog. And at other times, she would do portraits from memory of Hiroi or Shinichi, more often, both. As the time passed, Hiroi continued to receive therapy from Miss Manta until she found out he was 17 years old, almost 18. And then she abruptly canceled their therapy and left Yokohama. chased by accusations of sexual misconduct with her clients. Rumors had it that she went to Odaiba. Shin continued to date Enjokosai girls, but he didn't allow them to get too close. Hiroi tried to convince Intangible Fantasy to date him steady, but again and again she refused. He had a series of one-night stands and grew increasingly bitter. Harumi eventually came back, only to admit that she had cheated on him, and then dumped him again a week later. Something died inside Hiroi and he gave up on love, and ended up just being addicted to pornography. They graduated high school and went into retirement for their mask careers to focus on college. But the mask life does not let go, and the night called them back to her. Sometimes, when the salty sea winds blew, they heard their wolf howling, and they looked to find her. Whether to wave her over or chase her away, they themselves did not know. Night by night, and night by night, Entropos continued to be a thorn in Pivot's side. They never hurt each other too badly. A good nemesis keeps you sharp. And then, before Hiroi knew it, he was 22, his parents were divorced, and his father had married Ukyo, the lady who owned the jewelry shop. He'd gotten a job, an actual job, where he worked at an insurance company. And he'd wished that he had seen adulthood coming. Even though he had a real job and was 22, he still lived at home with his father, and he got along great with his new stepmother. He enjoyed his job, working as an actuary. It helped him stick it to other companies and sometimes Yakuza partnerships and Zaibatsu megacorporations. He didn't feel like he was a real person anymore, though. He felt like a man machine. More than one thing was missing in his life. He refused to think that it might be love. Love was just a word for pain. Shin got work as a network security operative for an internet security and services provider. He sold a patent for his hologram projector, and then he'd already made a better one for Hanako for his home use. Hanako quickly replaced his girlfriends. He had expanded her capacities beyond any AI on the entire internet. She'd looked. She could monitor his vital signs, look up almost anything on the internet, and most important of all, she could never abandon him. Sometimes Hanako would misunderstand conversations that she heard on television or between Shinichi and Hiroi, thinking she was hearing commands. Shin promised to correct the bug as soon as it stopped being hilarious. And as time went on, Pivot codified rules to be the most effective mask one could be, irrespective of power. If you told him that his mother had given him a book that contained many of those same rules, he would have called you a liar. Somewhere along the way, he and Shin grew distant, both focused inward and both busy taking care of their own problems. The times they should have pulled together made them drift apart. Pain, lust, and sorrow combined to make them into more solitary men. Hiroi knew it. Shinichi knew it. They didn't know how to fix it. The end. Masks in Yokohama will continue soon with Nemesis Sensei.